All right, all right. What is up, everybody? The DJ interview is live again. Man, we took a little hiatus and coming back with all new episodes. We're going to get into this thing like right now. I ain't even going to wait because this dude that's coming up, we are celebrating his 40th, like bro man, fourth floor. 40 years and the dude is only like 38. So let's see how that how that's going to play out. My man DJ Cam, what's up, my bro?
What's good, my dude? Big dog. What's
Yo,
poppin'?
40 years in this in
Yeah,
this
40 years of playing
business.
music. Yep.
So we're gonna do
Whoa.
this is part one for everybody who's listening. This is
Yeah,
part one of a two-part thing because there's no way we can fit 40 years in there. So we're gonna go 20 and 20.
there you go. Sounds
And
good.
we just gonna get this thing going. DJ Cam. Now you got 40 years in. I
Hmm.
know your actual age.
Yeah, I ain't scared. 54. 54. We ain't doing
He's
that.
54.
Own that.
He's
I
got
love the fact I'm 54.
40 years in. So you had to
Hmm.
start at an early age, either in your single digit or your early double digits.
Yep.
You're you're
Yeah.
you're just getting 13.
Yeah. So it was, started learning at like 12 and made the first bit of money when I was 13. So I don't count the first year.
Right.
I spent the year learning how to DJ, and I was in the closet. Nobody knew. Wasn't trying to do no parties and half stepping and none of that. I didn't come out until I was ready. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come out and wasn't sure of how to play records and things of that nature. When I came out, I was ready to DJ and start doing this. So I spent a year just perfecting the craft, the physical part, just learning how to do everything and working the equipment, hooking up the equipment, what equipment you needed, what equipment was better than other equipment, what was attainable equipment, what was equipment I wanted to get that I couldn't get because financially I wasn't ready, so all that was being done in that first year, but I don't technically count that year. I just count the year. I figure as a being a professional DJ, you become professional once somebody pays for your service. Not
Right.
because you offer it. You offering it doesn't mean you're professional. It just means you're very anxious and want to be out there and want to be seen.
Right.
That doesn't make you professional. I hear a lot of cats saying, "Yeah, I did a lot of parties with people and I did them for free." And I'm like, well, technically, when you did it for free, you wasn't professional. No one paid you. You was just hungry to get out there so people could see you. So maybe the money would come. You know what I'm saying? So that's how
Yeah.
that works. No disrespect, but just calling it what it is. When you get paid, now you're a professional. It's a difference of being
Exactly.
also.
That's been the theme of this whole DJ interview. You didn't start DJing until you got paid.
There you go.
So DJ Cam. Now, is was that always your name? We gonna bounce around. We gonna
Yeah,
bounce
sure.
around this, but really start from the beginning. What was it, DJ Cam, when DJ Cam first started?
Um, no, it wasn't. I don't know what it wasn't DJ Cam. Damn. Um, it eventually ended up being Cam because that it just made sense and it was simple. But when I started, you think of everybody that was out there. So we got to go back and set the timeline. This is like literally 1980. So with that in mind, the names that you would hear in terms of DJing, if you heard of any names of DJing, would be like Grandmaster Flash, Grand Wizard Theodore, DJ Charlie Chase,
Mm,
uh, Africa Bambata,
you
uh,
dropping them.
Grand Mixer DST. Um,
DST.
yes. So when you heard those names, just to say DJ Cam, that, was, that wasn't going to work. All those names had a whole lot of energy behind them. It was really selling something. So, um, I have to say my first name. I think when I first came out was it didn't even have DJ on it. Was it? It was just Cameo. I used the name Cameo, referring to the group Cameo, who was very
Yeah.
popular, hilarious. And then I forget who it was, but somebody talked me into for a short time using Cameoses. That might have been Ryan.
Wow.
That might have been my man Ryan O'Neal. Now I'm thinking about it. And he was like, "I should do," because they had a song called Cameoses. They had an album called Cameoses and a song at the time. He was like, "You should do not Cameo, you should go Cameoses." So that ran for about a good maybe summer or something.
2 months.
And yeah, then the DJ, I think the DJKam thing came, and then I had another little wave of a name change some years later. This is into the time of the Jazzies. So we had
somebody is saying Kazzy Cam.
Probably told you somebody else. So you had the Jazzy Jeff, the Jazzy J. There was a Jazzy J in Philly, and there was also a Jazzy J, original Jazzy J in New York, in the Bronx.
Yeah.
So someone one day comes up with the great idea of putting the K where the J is, Kazzy Cam. So I went with the DJ Kazzy Cam for maybe 2 summers. Yo, that's hilarious. Oh my God, it's so fun. Let's see who said it.
Somebody remembered. Hey, if you're watching live, say what's up to Cam in the chat. Say what's up, DJ Cam, Kazzy Cam, Cameo.
Cameosis.
Cameosis.
And what's funny, if I really was able to go through my records, there was a time where I actually this is a time where you would still put your name on records. This is when you would be DJing with different people.
Right.
So you would be in the habit of even marking your records so people didn't know what they were. Or you put your name on them so everybody knew whose was what. Because you would do parties and cats coming with their own records, so you didn't want stuff to get mixed up or what have you. So I know I have records where it literally says Cameo on it. I know I have records that say Cameosis. I know I have a handful that say DJ Kazzy Cam on it as well. This is hilarious.
Cam.
Yo.
Everybody is saying what is up.
Oh, what's up, Carla? Oh my God. They ain't got nothing to do with DJ.
Wait,
bro.
what is that? Hey, my Cam Doodle.
Yeah. They ain't got nothing to do with DJ. Cut it out.
Oh.
That was funny. Good one, Carla.
Funny. DJ Cam. So let's take everybody back to the beginning of DJ Cam. Well, Cam, because you weren't even a DJ, or I don't know when you started thinking about becoming a DJ. So take us there. We're gonna go on this 20-year journey in about 10 minutes. Let's do it.
Okay. The start of it, I was always big on radio, more so than television, at an early age. So I would listen to the radio more than actually watch TV shows. So I was in New York at the time, so I was listening to like Kenny Spiderweb, Frankie Crocker, of course, Fred Buggs, better known as Bugsy now. But when he first came, I remember when he first came on BLS, like he was the new guy, and that's just how they said it. We got the new guy, Fred Buggs. Lamar Renee. She was on like middays. So at that time, I wanted to do the radio thing, which was be on the radio and do what they do, which had nothing to do with the, jigga jigga wooga wooga, because I'd never heard of that at this time. So this is like early mid 70s. So I was always just into the whole radio thing. I was like, what? I want to do what they do. I want to be that person inside of the radio and control the music, but not having a clear idea of how that worked, but wanted to do it. And then as time went on, not calling that DJing, because I didn't even know that phrase at the time, but just wanting to be on the radio. So I guess that's the best phrase for it. Then I heard a mixtape, not it being called that at the time, at least I didn't recall that, but it had cats rapping on it. And it was tape with the Furious Four, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Four. I think the flip side had what you call it, Funky 4+1, DJ Breakout and DJ Baron. And that was just totally different from what was being played on the radio.
Yeah.
Still didn't understand what that was, but it was very, very different. And I was very interested in it. Like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like, these different dudes are rhyming, they're not singing. They do a little harmonizing, but you could tell they weren't like professional singers. They wasn't sounding like the Shy Lights or the Delphonics or nothing.
Right.
They were harmonizing, all the words kind of matched up, and da 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 da. And these different beats are being played in the background. You could tell it's not a drummer, you know. So I was kind of like bugging off of that. Once again, not having any visual. All this is just hearing it off of a cassette tape. So just studying the tape, listening to the tape. Then you start noticing them mentioning another person who's not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Flash is fast. Flash is this. Flash is on the beatbox. What the hell is a beatbox? And why ain't Flash talking? Why don't Flash rhyme? You know, these are things that I'm saying to myself. But they're talking about him constantly, bigging him up the whole time. Like, you know, Flash, he's the fastest. Flash is faster, and Flash one time, and whatever they were saying. So I started being curious of who he was.
Yeah.
I said, who is he? What does he do? You know, once again, no visual. I have nothing to see. All this is just the audio.
Right.
So I'm caught up in that, still wanting to be, you know, Frankie Crocker, things of that nature, blah, blah, blah. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be involved in music. I love music. My mom was big in music. My mom used to sing, wrote songs. She even had a record out way back in the day, cut a demo and everything. So that was kind of naturally in me.
Yeah.
And then I even found out my dad DJ'd for a little bit, or whatever their version of DJing was, where they would have parties and he would be the one putting the 45s on.
Wow.
My dad told me he did that for a little, you know, a couple parties or whatever. I was like, in my mind, I said, well, that was DJing, you know. I don't know what it was called then, you know, we were talking like, you know, 60s or whatever, but bottom line, you know, I don't know what Dick Clark was referred as, or the Geeter with the heater, but those cats were, you know, those were those type of cats. Like, everybody wasn't Grandmaster Flash. That wasn't what cats were doing. But I just knew I wanted to be a part of that, and I just had to figure it out. So as I was getting older, starting to see things, then it was starting to come together. You know what I'm saying? But I just, in the very beginning, I had no visual. Everything was just what I heard. I didn't see no MC rhyme, didn't see a DJ, but I was like, yo, I love this, you know, the sound of it and everything. And this is all before records, this is all before the Sugar Hill Gang and all that stuff. Like, none of that. And even when that came out, there was still no visual in the very beginning. You know, even when Rapper's Delight, you know, finally came out.
Right.
But that's where I was at. I was just locked into that, trying to figure that out, being, you know, what, 11, 12, you know, creeping into 13, just like, I want to do this, but damn, I don't even know what it looked like. But I want to participate somehow. I said, I can't rap. I know I couldn't be a rapper, because I knew I didn't have the too shy to maybe stand in front of people like that. So I said, I know I can't do that. And then I think I tried to write a rhyme, which was like terrible idea. I think I'm still working on that rhyme.
Still working on that same rhyme 30 years later.
This is like a quick 4-bar. Like, if I was one of the Furious Five, you know, they just wrote rhymes in little segments. I still ain't wrote those 4 bars yet. I'm still working on it. So
yeah,
I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I was like, you know, it got to be something with the music. Later on, finding out it was the DJ part. But like I said, at that time, I had no clue and didn't know how it functioned, how it worked, or anything. But I was very intrigued by it and drawn to it and wanted to do it. So that's like the beginnings of everything. And then everything started to pick up as I started to see things, hear things more, talked to older cats, my cousin Tyree, who kind of guided my ship through that whole process,
Right.
was giving me information because he had hands and eyes on everything, because he could rhyme and he DJ.
Mm,
So he had his hand on both. So he was
that
my eyes and ears for maybe like 2 years with the whole hip hop thing, like real talk.
that's that rare. That's that rare in a DJ where you could rock the mic too.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is a skill set.
Mm, mm, mm. So now you're getting ready to start this journey. You already decided this is
Hmm.
what I want to do for a living.
Locked and loaded.
How old were you before you got your own equipment? And then well, let's step back a little before that. How old were you before you were able to get on somebody else's equipment and they not kind of like shoo you away?
Um, that was my cousin Tyree, his equipment. He was the one. But I wasn't, he didn't want me on his equipment, but I was determined. Uh he would go out, hang out, do whatever. I jump on the equipment, turn it on. I didn't even know what when I say I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm.
Turn it on, I'm messing with stuff. He come back, I get everything turned off. So I thought, put back where everything should be. So I thought, and he was like, "You was touching my equipment." Nah, I wasn't messing with it. You told me not to. Yeah, he was. Then he would show me how he knew that I did certain things, or I touched it or did something. So I had to like, and after that, I said, "All right, I won't touch it no more." Then I would try to look at all the equipment and take a picture of it, and remember where everything was at, mess with it, and try to set it back, which was even worse than just messing with it and whatever. Terrible idea, but I did it. Me and him would get into it. He was a big, he wrestled in high school. So now we fighting and tussling. He's practicing wrestling moves on me, and basically beating. He's like 4 years, 5 years older than me. So beating me up, thinking that would be enough to keep me off. Wasn't. We go right back, mess with it again. I just gotta wrestle with Tyree. So what? Who cares? Me and him get to fighting, do it again. Gotta wrestle with Tyree. So what? Do it again. Then he just got to the point. I'm gonna show you how to. He never said I'm gonna show you how to DJ. So I'm gonna show you how to turn the stuff off and on so you don't tear up my stuff. That's all he was worried about. He
Mm-hmm.
showed me how to work all the equipment, not to learn to be a DJ, just so I wouldn't tear up his DJ equipment. Because
You're
I
right.
wasn't gonna stop touching it. So that was my beginning. Him teaching me turntable, the mixer, the speakers, the treble, the bass. Don't turn that up too loud. The main volume, the left and the right channel, the headphones, all that stuff. So he taught me the lay of the land, and he would tell me I could play records. So keep in mind, I still had no visual. So I was like saying to myself, what else am I going to do? That's what I was doing on my parents', DJ set. I would just play records. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So that's what I was doing. I would play records, had the headphones on, just listen to them in the headphones. And it sounded a lot better that way on his set than what it did on my parents' setup. Because it was, the DJ stuff was kind of sound was a little more boosted up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm doing that. Then I start asking him to show me what it is that he does on it. He's kind of slow on it. He's not rushing to show me. Then he starts showing me little stuff because I guess he saw the energy in me of wanting to learn. So he's showing me the basics. He told me the basics of how to work everything and not destroy nothing. Got that down, mastered that. Then Tyree had met up with DJ Woody. That's when Woody comes into play.
Nice.
Woody, and Tony T. Well, Tony T and Woody had a group, Groove Masters were their name. They added my cousin into the group. They're doing spots like JC's, Moonbase, and a couple of other little spots out here in the Willingboro, South Jersey area. One day Woody sees me messing with the equipment. He says, "Oh, you want to DJ?" I was like, "Yeah, but Tyree won't really show me. He's just showing me just enough. But he ain't showing me. I'm making reference, man. I want to be Grandmaster Flash, da da da. But he ain't showing me." So Woody says, "All right." He said, "I'm gonna give you some homework." So Woody would pick. Woody probably tell this better than me. Woody would pick some whack songs to give me practice. He would do it. What I'll say is a routine. He'll show me, this is what I want you to learn how to do. And he would do whatever it is. And it might be a situation where I don't scratch or do anything extra.
Right.
Just keeping the song on beat. He said the main thing is you want to be able to play the music so people can dance to it. So when you go from one turntable to the next turntable, it got to be set so that people they don't lose their rhythm of dancing. Okay. So he would give me certain songs. I would practice. He might come back, that following week. Let me hear you. Play them songs exact same way he would show me. Nothing extra. Then he would give me another song. Make it song might be a little better than the last song. And the next week he might give me another song. Then the following week he might give me a song that I might have heard on the radio. Now I'm like, oh man, he's giving me good records because they obviously the radio's playing, so it's considered a good record. All the other records were probably good records, but being I didn't hear them on the radio, I wasn't thinking about them as being good records, unknowing that they were just break beats. So still practicing. He's showing me a little bit. Him and Tony are chiming in. Tyree's still helping, but not over helping because I'm still his little cousin. So he's still playing his part as big cousin. Like, come on, we got to go do this party. We got to go do whatever. And they're kind of taking time out and showing me stuff and do this and do that and blah, 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 blah. So just picking up paying attention to everything that's being said, adding it in, practicing. Every song that I already knew how to cut, would still practice that. Woody would give me something new, figure that out, add that to the arsenal. So now I know how to play, say, 4 or 5 different songs and keep the beat going. So then I would practice playing all of them in a row. As if I was at a party, let me play this song, then play this song, then play this song, then play that song. So I would be able to play, say, 5 or 6 songs and not lose a beat and be able to maintain those songs.
Right.
So building that stamina up. What he was like, I'm finding this out later. So now this thought is a later thought. We was like, yo, this mug got some skills. He actually has a little knack for this. So he's giving me more stuff and getting a little more involved and adding little extra things, showing me a little scratch thing. Now we're getting into the scratching stuff. I'm just grabbing it, learning it, grabbing it, learning it, grabbing it. And he's just feeding me. Boom, 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 boom. And then, like I said, once I got everything down, I spent that whole year just really getting it down for real, because some of it still was sounding a hot mess. So I know it's driving my sister crazy and my dad crazy and my mom crazy. Yeah, how low,
and everybody else that was listening, right?
God, everybody. So I know it was bad, but I had to get through that, to get good. But at least, but I didn't expose it to the public. I didn't go out until I was ready.
So let me catch everybody up to speed who is not familiar with Kam already. Now, you originally were in New York.
Yeah.
And you came down to Jersey. And this is where all this is happening in New Jersey after your early double-digit age. You got
by this time I'm 12 and a half, 13, creeping on 14, all in that bracket. Yep.
Nice.
Okay. Shout out Frank. What's good, Frank? Frank, nice. He actually knows my cousin and knows Woody and all them.
Nice. Yep. You got everybody saying what's up.
What's
For
up, everybody?
everybody who is and just got here, this is DJ. Let me get it back. Heavy hitter DJKam, and we're helping him celebrate his 40 years in this DJ biz. And he is just telling his story. This is part one of a two-part interview because we cannot fit all 40 years in. So we're gonna do up to about 20 years because you've done so much that people don't even realize. And then I know when we've talked and behind the scenes, you kind of realized how much you've done and was like, wow.
Yeah, nah, it's been a lot. Music's other than breathing. Music's right there. Music's a
Yeah.
strong number two. Real talk.
Tommy is international DJ Tommy Lee is saying you 13, you look 20. If you have questions for Cam, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat and we'll get to your questions. What's up, everyone, for joining us live?
Yeah.
Hey, everyone from joining us from the replay. We're gonna continue with this amazing 40-year story. Man, this is like crazy 40 years in a business and you still love it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. They ain't going nowhere to the end. Riding this till the wheels fall off. To the end, to the last day.
So DJ Woody Wood is telling you you've got some skills.
Well, no. Like I said, I kind of brought that to current. He wasn't saying that at the time. Later on, he told me that, but at the time, he's seeing that there's something there. So his energy of showing me kind of changed a little bit. Like, okay, I'm gonna really show him. I'm gonna, like, okay, this is not a little play around situation. Like, this is not my man's little cousin wanting to DJ and is cute and all that. Like, he's like, I don't know, he might have something. So let me, and Woody was that guy, like out here.
Yeah.
Woody was that dude. He'll be the first to try to downplay it, but Woody was our Grandmaster Flash. Out in this area in South Jersey, it is what it is.
In this
He
area.
did the radio. He was on radio in Philly. He was DJ for Lady B. Lady B's a legend here in Philadelphia radio. He DJ'd for her. I don't know. I think it was at least 10 years, if I'm correct, but I don't want to quote that. But, Woody put in his time as well. And, it was, for me, it was a who's better to learn from than Woody. That helped me become the DJ that I am because of who I learned from. You understand what I'm saying? So,
wow. Yeah.
My skills they could have been less had I learned from some of his competition, let's say. Shots fired.
Shots fired. Shot fired.
I'll do it for you, Woody. I know you ain't gonna do it now. Back in the day, Woody was that guy, and he let you know. I learned that part too. That's the sound effect for shots fired.
That's the sound effect for shots fired. I'm making up my own stuff.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Just be laughing when shots are fired. But,
I was just looking at the chat over here. All right, so continue with your story because it is amazing, and people here that know you know most of it, and they'll probably be surprised at some of the things that went on.
Well, I don't even know where to pick up, but once again, just back to what he was just showing me. Then we go to that part where I start to get exposed to the scene. So they would go do the spot. They were like the resident DJs at this place out here called Moonbase. Probably was like the hottest club out here in this area.
Yeah.
So I would help them go set up, bring the crates into the venue, what have you. This is all the computer stuff is dead, y'all. This is strictly bringing out where you might bring out 8 to 10. You're talking about Woody. So 8 to 10 crates of records is coming. You got the big speakers, you know, turntable, mixer, about 2 or 3 amps, depending on how many speakers you're bringing out. Cousin Tyree had the Earth speakers. It's like it was, so we had to have
Yeah.
2 amps on
Somebody
them.
mentioned Woody had the Earth
Yeah,
speakers.
that's right. Them joints was 5 feet. There you go. I
Ah.
don't know who that name was. I didn't see a name to that, but yeah, they knew. They seen them. But we had to bring all that out. So I would help set up. You know, you got to do the sound check or whatever. You're there before everybody's there for the party or what have you. So they would let me play a record or two. I'm hyped. We're getting a little action outside of the house. What? System turned up loud and no one saying turn it down. Get to play about 2 or 3 records. Then they take my little happy ass back home. They do the party, end of the party. They come home. I'm still up. I'm helping them bring the equipment back in after the party that I wasn't at for the whole night. I'm home watching Saturday Night Live or whatever, like everybody else. Then they come back. I'm helping them bring the equipment in. Doing that for a minute, long time, probably about a year. Doing that, but it was a big deal. It was a big deal, and it was helping me become comfortable with the concept of eventually playing in front of people and playing outside of my home. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
the concept of not being in the back room DJing and being somewhere, you know, quote unquote, if it's in sports terms, in the away game. I wasn't threatened by that when that time came, because every event you did obviously wasn't at home, so it was in the away game. So to go, when I started finally doing my own thing and partnering up with people more my age, it wasn't a big deal to go out and DJ. There was no fear.
right.
No fear, none, zero. So that built me on that end. That's what that did. You know, it didn't seem like it as much at the time, but when I reflect on it, I'm like, if you took that time away, you know how many parties I'd have went out and did on my own? That I would have been scared, nervous. I'd have been a whole lot of things, but just because of that little workout, it was building me. It was, the confidence was there.
Yeah.
You know? Then as I knew I was getting good, the cockiness was kicking in. So I had both.
Is that still there a little?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Major chip on the shoulder all day. Even after 40 years, I still feel like I have something to prove. Definitely.
Roger that.
Yep. So that was that part, you know, just, you know, putting in that work. You know, a lot of cats nowadays kind of don't do that. They just want to, you know, buy the computer, get a handful of MP3s, and go out and do a party. And now they feel like they just as official as a cat like myself. And it's like, oh, dogs, it kind of doesn't work that way. Like, real
Now,
talk.
I used to hate on the modern technology. You know, I had conversations, actually a conversation earlier today with international DJ Tommy Lee, and I'm like, I used to hate on it, but now I appreciate it because it's just taking that DJ skill to another whole level. It's stuff you cannot do with just 2 records. It's a button you can hit and you got instant doubles.
Yeah, no, I'd say it's the gift and the curse. I don't look at it all as like, yeah, it's a great thing. Nah, some of it is and some of those buttons are to activate and do things that we used to do with the crossfader ourselves,
right?
Manually. Those buttons aren't created because someone came up with the idea of doing instant doubles. We were buying doubles, you know.
Yeah.
When you do the back and forth and all that, there's buttons that can do that. That's because that's what we were doing with the crossfader. We were hitting it, pat, pat, tap, tap, do, you know, doubling the beat up and all that stuff. We were doing that factual, you know. So a lot of that's lost because now there's a button that can do it. So there's a whole era of cats have no idea that button was created because guess what? In '84, that's what I was doing at a party, doubling it up, tripling it up, you know, with 2 pieces of vinyl, not with anything digital, you know. So it's to me, you know, when you been DJing for a certain amount of time, there's certain things. The technology is great, but sometimes it takes away from enhancing the skill set.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
always look at certain things like
we live at a different time because you were lucky enough to be both analog and digital.
right.
And you know, just like cars, you favor the one you had first.
Yeah. Well, and I say this, and you know, we can, like I tell you, we can always have an argument, but back when we were doing those things, that was a skill.
Yeah.
That's not
It
easy
really
to do.
was.
It's not easy to do. You know how many DJs can't double up a record on
Yeah.
their own? Especially the ones that know about the button. Are we going to have that debate, that conversation?
Yeah.
That's why I'm still DJing today, because I can do it without the button. I buy mixers
Right.
that can do all that, and I don't use none of them functions. If I could take all those functions off of my mixer, I would. You know what I'm saying? I don't need them. I'm not, that's not what the technology is great and all that, but I don't get caught up in utilizing all that. But that's just me. I know there's a lot of cats of my era that feel different, and that's great. But I'm that guy. I'm the authentic cat. And I'll tell any cat that DJs, let's go at it authentic. You know, let's take away all the bells and the whistles and let's get it popping.
And let's get it going. All the DJs that's here, put in the chat, analog or digital. I want to see who's gonna outrank who, and you could probably tell who's old school DJ, because they probably gonna put analog, because I would too. I'm still a vinyl person.
Oh man, but you know, it's just like I said before, the technology is dope, you know, but I always weigh it out. And then what it also does, it takes away from, this is my thought, and this is when I get real deep and can go off the deep end with it. It keeps cats from learning the true concept of DJing, the essence of it. Might be too deep, I'm sorry. But it's just like a drummer would tell you. It's one thing to know how to play the drums, and another thing to know how to program a beat in a drum machine.
Right.
There's a difference.
Definitely.
That's all I'm saying. There's DJs who can DJ with vinyl and none of the digital stuff. Then there's the guys that can do it with the digital stuff. But I'm telling you, that analog dude's beast. It takes a little more to learn, a little more practice, a little more skill set, a little more know-how.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at with it. Some cats want to debate that, and you know, we can do that. I'm down for that. You know, I'm always down for the battle. I come from the era of battle. But yeah, it's just, you know, I just look at it as, with this being something that we created, we got to keep it organic. We got to keep it relevant. We can't let the technology totally take everything away to the point that we totally forget how it started and what it was like to do it in the beginning, because it was something we created. Yeah. Cats started DJing on turntables because they couldn't play instruments. 1, because they couldn't play. 2, because they couldn't afford them. 3, because they stopped taking the music programs out of the schools. I was still in New York when they started doing that. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about that, you want to talk about being creative. Yeah. A turntable was nothing to be, it was never to be an instrument. Better yet, as Flash said, you wasn't even supposed to touch the record. That was a violation. You touched the physical record, you was wild. And somebody that owned that record would lose their mind if they physically seen your fingers on the actual vinyl itself. You were supposed to hold that thing on the corners, on the sides.
What are you doing?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So to take that and say, oh, I'm gonna touch it, spin it back, manipulate it, scratch it, and do all these things, we can't lose that art. Like that's too, come on, man, that's too much. We can't let that go just based on technology. Technology can still exist, but let's not lose those basic functions, because that's ours. That's black. And then you're talking about somebody that created is not even, what, Flash turned 60. So we're talking about somebody that created something, and the cat that created is not even 60, 61, 62 years of age.
Yeah.
How new is that? You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
The cat that created it is still someone we can talk to. It's not
read
somebody
this,
in
Cam.
history book.
Read that.
Oh man, because these cheap. Yeah, I posted that 1,000 times on Facebook. Got that
right. You got that right.
Yes, yes. Oh,
So
yes,
now
yes.
take us through the rest of the 80s so we can get into your 90s thing, because you've been on the radio for many years too. So take us through the rest of the 80s
All
so we
right.
can get a sense of what you were doing then.
All right. So after, learning the basics, finally do my first party, like November 81, get paid $80, do the event. Now I'm official tissue. Every party I did after that, I pretty much was compensated for. So this is 81. So now going into like 82 is me getting with other cats. By this time, my cousin Tyree moves. He leaves Jersey, so all the equipment goes. So now I'm a well groomed technical DJ with a handful of records and no equipment. This is bad. This is bad. This ain't dope at all. I need some equipment. I need somebody that got some turntables, some speakers, some something. So I run into a friend of mine by the name of Cecil. Cecil wants to learn how to DJ. That's great. I'll teach you. And you get the equipment. Don't get the equipment, man. You know, yeah, man, get the equipment for me. Da da da. Man, me, Cecil, and his dad went to Philadelphia. We buying equipment. Yeah, we gotta get two of them, and we need that. And we need a name brand this. And we need to get to this, and the new mark so and so mixer that, and the Pioneer turntables, and he gets the starter kit. Oh man, woo! Back at it. Now I got a crew. So we also create a crew and we start doing stuff together. So I taught him how to spin, how to DJ. We call ourselves the Pioneers of Funk. He had
Pioneers of Funk.
Took the name from Pioneer Turntables. Hilarious. Pioneers of Funk.
Wait. Go back a little bit. You said you guys bought equipment. What did you buy?
No, no weed. No, wait. I didn't buy anything.
What did you have?
The bonds got the equipment. Cam didn't get nothing. Cam was pointing at what you should get because I had a good idea of what was needed and I was trusted. So they went on, you think we need? Yeah, we need that. Yeah, we need that Shure mic. Yeah, we need I just knew what to get. I didn't have the funds to get it.
You didn't get two Gemini turntables and a realistic mixer, did you?
No. I knew better. I told you I did my homework when I was, the closet DJ. So I knew what to get and what not to get. I never played on the Radio Shack mixer. So I ain't live that life. You get what I'm saying? Once again, the cats I learned from were good. Woody, my cousin Tyree, their equipment level was at a good spot. So we had to keep it there. I didn't do the Radio Shack. So the cats that started out like that, I can't relate. You know what I'm saying? So
funny.
Got the equipment with Cecil. We started a crew, whatever you want to call it at the time. We started doing events.
Pioneers of Funk.
Pioneers of Funk. His dad is getting us work, but we doing like corporate gigs. We doing parties we ain't got no business doing. I ain't gonna lie to you. No, but we was making some good money, yo. It was terrible. It was terrible.
It's more than $50, right?
What? Wow, we spent money for 3 digits. Yeah, boy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
serious $100
Yes. I'm spending $75 on records easy after a party and still got money in my pocket. You know what I mean? Like, nah, we doing it then. So we doing all these parties. Dad's getting us into stuff we just have no business doing. Real quick, we did a fundraiser event where the whole event, it was a 24-hour dance event. I don't know the exact wording for it, but it was I want to say a
dance-a-thon. We'll call it that.
It was a dance-a-thon. It was 24 hours. And yes, people, we DJ for 24 hours. 24 hours. We did it. It was in Mount Holly.
Y'all should have been in the Guinness.
Mount Holly, we did that event. Insane. Just got to put that out there. DJ for 24 hours. And we might have had 3 hours of music. That
so you were running the same exact music.
Please, what?
Like they do in some of these clubs, right? You hear the same mix over and over. They just do it seamlessly.
Yeah, we didn't have enough music. Well, I don't think any DJ had it at that time to do 24 hours, but we definitely, like I said before, we were getting put in situations we technically pound for pound weren't ready for. But we got through them, we did them. Being that I was kind of had my weight up a little bit, it kind of helped us some to get us through all that. So, we were moving. So we did that. Pioneers of Funk, that's that phase. We're doing enough that I'm generating enough money. I'm putting my money to the side. I eventually get my own setup.
Right.
So now I go from not having nothing but maybe a crate and a half of records and headphones. That's all I had, to having a full setup in my house.
Now, what did you get? Do you remember what equipment you got?
PVS speakers, PVS amp, Gemini mixer. I forget the currency. I got Techniques, but they weren't 1200s. Pause. They were straight arms. I just don't remember the model number.
Was it that
They might have been
the SL10. Frank Nice is saying
they were belt drive. If those were belt drive, the first set I got were belt drive, and they didn't have a speed pitch.
Oh, that's funny.
Pitch control. So I finally was able to get my first setup. So finally, I got a setup at the crib. I'm able to practice every day. Able to really get into building my record collection, because now I have a true place to play them and learn the records and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. Sneak in a little bit of homework, practice and practice and practice. Maybe go to sleep, go to school the next day, come home, practice. Maybe eat a little something because my mom cooked. Practice. Play a little basketball because I was playing basketball in high school, junior high, whatever. Practice. Just every second I got to practice DJing, that's what I was doing.
Right.
Try to have a girlfriend. Practice. Should have went on a date that day. Nope. No, I got to practice. So, just everything revolved around the DJing at that point. So doing that, still doing parties. But during that time, it was a lot of here in, location, Willingboro, New Jersey. So it was a lot of house parties. So people would have 13 birthday parties, sweet 16s, whatever. Parties around the holidays, Valentine's Day party or whatever. So I was doing a lot of house parties, was kind of in that loop.
Right.
It was like a couple of DJs. So by this time I'm dealing with my peers. I'm not dealing with people, like Woody and my cousin Tyree and Tony T's age. Because, they were in high school and everything. So when I was doing the Moonbase thing, that was to older, the older people, wasn't my peers. Right. But now I'm doing house parties. I'm doing parties for people I'm going to school with, things of that nature, competing with the DJs out here that were of my age, but their skill set wasn't where I was at. I was just totally ahead of them because I was just on it that early. And like I said, going back to who my teacher was taught by somebody very good. So it helped make me very good.
Right.
So doing that. Then I branch off. By that time, Cecil moves out of Willingboro. So I start my own little crew. Now by this time I've seen, Grandmaster Flash and the whole thing like that. So I'm kind of wanting to create that situation minus the MCs. necessarily. So I knew he had like a cat that helped him, like Disco B, Easy Mike. So I kind of wanted that thing. So going back a little bit, almost I got to backtrack on this one. So as the pioneers of funk, I meet my god brother Keith. We do an event in Philly, and it was it was called Battle of the DJs. Really wasn't battling. It was just two DJ setups at the party.
Right.
We took turns playing. I think it was like half an hour, half an hour, half an hour the whole night. But they kind of promoted it like it was a battle.
Mm-hmm.
So looking down at the other DJs, I'm like, I go to school with that cat. I'm in 8th grade at this point. I'm like, I know him. Like he's from where we from. We thinking the guys down there were from Philadelphia because we were the outsiders. We're coming from Jersey, South Jersey, to come over to Philly to do an event. We think they're from Philly just off top. Come to find out they're from Willenboro just like we were. So didn't know Keith was into the DJ scene like that. So I got with him. Got him on my team.
The crew.
So now it's me. Yeah.
Pioneers of Funk.
No. That Pioneers of Funk is what I was with.
Oh.
When Pioneers of Funk ended, then Cam started his own movement.
Ah.
We didn't even have a name. It was DJKam. It was me. And this is where the
crew.
Yeah. It was DJKam, and under that umbrella means Keith and whoever, we didn't even have a name. So by that time, I'm doing, house parties and stuff like that. So me and Keith running around doing everything. So we're doing parties, packing up the car, got people driving the car, maybe take 2 or 3 trips to get all the equipment there and back. Did parties where maybe you had to leave the equipment at the person's house overnight and get it the next morning.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That type of thing. Cause we weren't driving at the time. We weren't old enough to drive. We didn't have license. Now we're a little older, 15, getting 16, learner's permit. Still can't drive on your own. Somebody got to be in the car that has a license. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody growed up.
Yeah. So doing that run. Then we get into high school. First year of high school, this is where Craig Rutan comes into play. This is how I meet Craig Rutan.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy. And my cousin Reg was a part of his crew, but he was on the low end. Craig is the man. Craig rhymed and DJ. CMC. And I can't think of the name of their crew. Saved my life. But they had the whole Willenboro party scene locked. I'm like, damn, I want to get in on that. Me and Keith, we at the bit. We want to be a part of that. We want to get in on that. So during that time, biting at the bit, wanting to get in with that, meet Toji. So that's where Toji comes into play as well. Toji starts hanging out. Toji was already kind of DJing, but I was teaching him what I knew. I don't know who he was learning from prior, but
right.
I was showing him the stuff that I learned from Woody. You know what I'm saying? So I'm passing that on. This is the type of equipment you got to get. This is the blah, blah, blah. So we making the runs. We going to Philly, getting his setup, whatever. So he's coming in. So when he comes in, he's coming in with him and his brother, Mike Scott, aka Mike Nice. So we start all doing parties together. So now I'm gonna tell the truth. We would do the party, everybody plays their part. End of the night, everybody's gone. Toji's gone. Mike Nice is gone.
You was there by yourself.
And Keith. Sometimes Keith would be going too. Keep it 100. They dealt with the ladies. You know what I'm saying? I'm the DJ guy. I'm the DJ dude. DJing was first. The ladies they was cool and everything. As long as they danced when I DJed, we was good. But I couldn't stop doing the DJ thing and run after the woman. Like that wasn't my thing. It was all about the DJ. But they had a different balance. So end of the night come, they gone. So
Frank Nice is saying, don't forget Wheeler.
Wheeler was I knew about Wheeler. Wheeler was the competition. I'm gonna keep it 100. I was the Woody guy. Come on, Frank. If we're gonna tell it, we're gonna tell it. He was nice, but I had no play with him. I had no play at all. Matter of fact, I only met him once or twice, and that was real brief and like real generic. But he was a beast too. But
Right.
I was Team Woody. I was on the, even though I think Wheeler was from Willenboro, but and Woody was technically Burlington. I was with the Burlington guy at that time.
This is New Jersey, everyone.
Yeah, South Jersey. This is where all this is happening. So so we're doing parties. Mike Nice, Mike's mom, was a part of the Booster Club. So we become I become a sophomore. Toji and Mike are freshmen. Mm-hmm. Mike's mom is a part of the Booster. Guess who starts getting the parties? Willenboro High School. Just saying. We start getting the parties. Now we starting to get those events. So now we bigger. Now we beyond just doing house parties.
By default.
Well,
so you're doing corporate parties, you're doing house parties, now you're doing school parties.
That was the Pioneers of Funk phase. Once the Pioneers of Funk faded into something else, the corporate thing was gone. That faded out. That didn't continue. That only lasted during the run of the Pioneers of Funk. When I got into my own thing, there was no more Pioneers of Funk. I had by then created my own situation. Me, Keith, Toji, Mike come in a little later. Then me and Keith, sophomores in Willenboro High, Toji and Mike become freshmen. Mike's mom was a part of the Booster. Now we start being able to get our hands involved in getting some of the Willenboro parties that were happening, that were done in the cafeteria of the high school. So now we stepping away from just playing the house parties. Now we're doing parties that were being done on Saturday night in the at the high school in the cafeteria. So now we raising the bar. Nice.
Becoming all stars.
Yeah, we're starting to, we're a little ahead of the game. We shouldn't have been sophomores, freshmen participating in that realm. That was a junior, senior type thing, but we got in a little bit and was kind of sharing the ranks. Shout outs to Chip Mitchell. I forget his DJ name, but he was also like a part of that whole thing with Craig CMC, Craig Wooten, Black Manta. They were the main guys. Like don't miss. I don't want to mislead this. But that sophomore year, we were able to get in a little bit. Let's say if they did in the whole year, let's say if there were, I'm just making up numbers, 15 parties for the year.
Right.
We got 4 or 5 of them. Where before they had all 15.
Wow.
They had it all. Like, it wasn't, we weren't a part of the split at all. But then we, and I call that networking. That's the proper word for that. Mike's mom was part of the Booster, and our networking allowed us to get involved and be a part of that. That's called good business.
He was making your way. Making a hole.
So we're doing that. Out. So that's going into high school. So now we're in like 84, 85-ish, junior year. By this time I'm going to Willenboro High School. Willenboro High School has a TV and radio program. Radio and TV communications. Shout out to Mr. Rose, our teacher. I go to Willenboro exclusively because of that program. We had a cable network station that worked right here in the Burlington County area on cable.
Right.
And we also, on that same platform, were able to go and do radio as well. So by my sophomore year, late sophomore year, but really going into my junior year, just being honest, I was able to start doing a radio show. So I started doing a radio show on it was Channel 8, WITV, I think is what it was called. WITV, if I'm correct, but I know it was Channel 8. and I did a radio show after school from I think it was 3:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And I did that my junior year and my senior year. In my senior year, I surrendered actually playing basketball to pursue the radio thing a little more.
Mm.
So I didn't play my senior year of basketball because at that point I really knew what I wanted to get into because that's where the radio thing started to kick in. So now it was more than just doing the parties and all that. I was getting some insight on how the radio world finally really maneuvered and how you did that and things of that nature. So now I'm in my quote unquote red alert phase where I'm like, now I'm about to become red alert because I want to do this radio thing. So I'm getting the taste of it, as a junior, senior in high school.
Wow. So
Yeah.
so are we still in the 80s or we
Still in
in
80s.
the
I come out 80, I
Wow.
graduated 86. So we doing that coming out, class of 86. Shout out to class 86, Willenboro. Was really good. Then Reg gets a job at the local record store in our town. It was a record store. It was called the Turntable. But the turntable started to fade, meaning the concept of cassettes and CDs, or really CDs, were coming into play. So the owner wanted a new name for the store. They renamed it Sound Express, which Reg kind of came up with the name. He was hired there, I think like late 87. I came in maybe about 6 months to a year after he did. He was able to get me a job there. They were like, yeah, we need another guy in here that really knows music good, blah, 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 blah. Reg was like, you should get Cam, and by that time they knew me because I was constantly, going in there buying music anyway. So shout out to Dan the Man and Chuck, the owner Chuck and Bonnie. They hired me, brought me in. So me and Reg are there working along with Dan the Man. And now so say 88, I'm working at, the local record store in our neighborhood.
In Jersey, not Philly.
Yeah, this is all, nothing's in Philly yet.
Okay.
Philly don't happen until 2000s.
Gotcha.
All of it's still Jersey, all South Jersey.
Wow.
So working there, interacting with all the people who buy music. So DJ, so I'm getting work just because I'm there. You're dealing with people who are buying music, into music, looking for a DJ for this, blah, blah, blah. Me and Reg be like, oh, we DJ, need us for this, need us for that. So work's coming in through that. A guy comes in to buy records. He comes in a crazy panic one day or one evening, wanting some house music. So we show him the house music we got, in the venue. And then we kind of asked him, like, yo, what you need it for? You got a party to do tonight? Nah, I go to school in Princeton and I have a radio show. And I need some new house records to play on my show. My antennas go up instantly.
Your spidey senses kick in.
Words. I'm looking around like, that's all you need. You good? I'm about to get this cat my discount.
Scooby-Doo come out. Huh?
Yeah, I'm like, good. You got everything. No tax, though. It's gonna take the tax off for you. You know what I'm saying? Don't even worry about that. So we had by this time, me and Reg would make like little CD, or not even CDs, let me think about it, cassettes, mixed CDs or mixtapes, and just to play in the store. So we would take the music that was in the store that people could buy.
Yeah.
And we would just mix, we DJ. So we would just put it together in a way that people would hear it when they were out and about, minus talking and all that stuff. So we thought it'd be a good way to encourage people to want the music if they heard it all mixed up and things like that. So we're playing that. He's asking, what's this? He said, I want this tape too, because I might want to play that on the radio. We're like, oh no, that's just a tape we did for the store. Well, who did it? I want to. So we did it. We're pointing at each other. Y'all did that? Yeah. I might need y'all to come up and do my show. Reg is kind of all Reg is being regular Reg, all reluctant. Oh, okay, well, we can exchange numbers, but Reg ain't ready to call nobody and make nothing happen. I'm like, yeah, 609. What in the what? Yeah, I got it. I got
there.
it.
I don't
What do you
care
say?
who else.
Was it Mark Coleman? Oh, okay, got you. No doubt. Okay, called him up. Not even 2 weeks later, we up at a station called WPRB 103.3 Princeton. Station's owned by Princeton University. It's for the students, but it was also ran where people could come in that weren't related with the school could get airtime as long as it didn't keep the students from getting airtime. As long as someone that was a student didn't want the slot that you were on, you were fine. You could be on the air. Yeah. Their wattage was crazy. Keep in mind, this is an Ivy League school. So, they'll spend a little bit of money, So the range and the wattage on that covered almost all the way down to Atlantic City and almost into parts of New York was how wide the range was. So when I first get on PRB, so this is like, by this time, this is like mid 88, going into 89 or so.
Yeah.
Playing house music on PRB Thursday nights. His show was from 8 to midnight. Doing it live, going up there. People started finding out. They start tuning in. We're at the record store telling them, check us out. I'm going up there to play live. My cousin Reg, shout out to Reg. Anybody that knows Reg knows. He makes little pre-recorded mixes on the tape, on cassette. And I got to take him up there and play them. Because he ain't going up there every week.
He ain't going.
Reg's busy, doing nothing. Reg ain't got time to be going up to do radio, back in 88 and 89. He ain't had the time. So doing the mixes with him, Mark gets ready to graduate. And there was another guy that was involved, which was G. He's doing the show as well. And he was there before us. Mark gets ready to leave and basically hands the show over, that time slot over to G. G says, yo, you guys want to continue to be a part of this? They're like, yeah, thinking, still going to be house music and all that. He said, well, that's cool, but I want to change the format. I want it to be all hip hop. Like dogs. Right down my alley. I said, I was doing the house. I was doing the house just to get in. I see. We were doing the house music just because it was just about being on the radio. It wasn't even about the form of music. We used to go out to house parties and we got involved with house music real heavy because we were selling it in the record store. Shout out Reg, what's going on? But when G decided to change the format to hip hop, that changed everything.
Right.
Like, yeah, we in. Let's go. So we started doing the show. Long story short, doing the show with G. RIP to Tony D from Trenton, who was known. He was the producer for Poor Righteous Teachers, YZ, and a lot of other groups out of Philadelphia, and a couple of groups out of New York as well. He was on the show as well. So me and him shared the DJ duties. If he wasn't on tour or things like that, or if his schedule wasn't too busy, he was there. But I was the consistent DJ that was there every week, regardless. So we're doing the show, all hip hop. And now it really picks up in terms of the people that are listening and participating. I'm really in my bag now because I'm doing radio. Like this is, it was one thing, like not to ish on what I was doing with the Willingboro High School thing, but this was a bigger audience. You know what I'm saying? And we got phone lines and the whole nine, so we can get a gauge of who was listening. People are calling in, telling us where they at and where they listening from, and it was nuts. It was insane. So
now this is your first ever exposure to radio, correct?
Radio on a semi major situation. Yeah, it was bigger than what I was doing at Willingboro High School.
Yeah,
it was definitely bigger than that. Um, the range, like I said, was tremendous. You know, there's people that were hearing us in Philly, all the way down to Atlantic City, all the way up North Jersey. You know, and then we had the groups come in. So once we went hip hop, you name any group, say from '88, and we went all the way to '93. That's how long of a run we had. The show was called the Raw Deal Rap Show. G, shout out to G. Thank you, thank you. Myself, R.I.P. Tony D, Reggie Reg. That was the core lineup. Jay Ski had got his start on our show. So just to shout Jay Ski out, who was someone who came a little later under the whole Willenboro, you know, run
umbrella.
of DJs. Yes. So we ran that whole thing, but anybody, we had Wu-Tang before people knew who Wu-Tang was. And G still runs with those guys to this day. Wow. He was even mentioned on the you know, they did the I don't even know what to call it, the biopic, I guess it's called. The TV show that they have on Hulu. He was even mentioned in that.
I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, so he's, you know, he was a part of that. I mean, Poor Righteous Teachers, Mobb Deep, Naughty by Nature, Master Ace, Craig G, Cool G Rap Polo, just Super Lover C, Casanova Rudd, just anybody you could think of that was out from '88 to '93.
Wow.
Third base. Everybody came through our station. That's how big we got. And the way that we were playing their music, cats were coming through and giving us support because of the way we were supporting them. And we was getting a lot of love, and we knew we was getting it because the competition, which really wasn't even competition, but I'll say it was competition because that's how they treated us over in Philly. Shout out to DJ Ran. Get them shots fired ready.
Get them ready.
Cats, DJ Ran, Cosmic Kev, all of those cats started paying attention to what we were doing on Thursday nights. And they were on big radio in Philly. We weren't as big as them. But you couldn't tell the difference because of the respect we got and the people we ran with and the affiliations that we developed during that run, you know, of those 5 years. We were a threat. And then the fact that Cosmic Kev had a show on Friday nights, but we were on Thursday. So we were able to break a lot of music the day before they could even touch that stuff. So we would beat them to the punch constantly. And then we didn't have, you know, the program director thing. We didn't have the overhead of management, you know, telling you what you could and couldn't play. We weren't a part of that radio life because it was still, in a sense, college radio. You know what I mean? So
now college radio, they played all clean versions too, or they did play the other.
You could play on PRB, you could play dirty after midnight, but we went off at midnight. Okay. So everything we played had to be clean because we were on from 8 till midnight.
Roger
so
that.
Everything we played was clean. We had a long run. We had sponsorships for like 3 years of the 5 years with St. Ides. And there was a club in South Jersey called Club Mahorns, which was co-owned by the ball player Rick Mahorn, who played in Philly for a handful of years. He's more known for playing in Detroit with the Pistons, the Bad Boys, but he was in Philly for about 3 or 4 years, and he had a club out here, and he sponsored our show as well. So that's how we made our money, and they were major sponsors. And like I said, we had both of them for 3 years out of the 5 years that we had that run. You know, so we was doing things was moving. We were able to get affiliated with Stretch and Bobbito. We were almost like the younger brothers of them in a sense. Yeah. What we were doing was similar to what they were doing. They were on the same night. Their show started at midnight.
Yeah.
At 5 in the morning. There were times we actually left our show and went up to check those guys out. We had built a relationship with them. So we were doing that, and that was just the radio part. So in the midst of all that going on, I still was actually started recording and doing records, which is a whole nother branch.
This is late 80s, early 90s.
Yes. I had a contract with Rough House Records. I guess it was 89. Reg had the first contract. I'd love for Reg to come and tell that story. He was with this group called Blackmail. They was on Rough House Records, distributed by Capitol. He was with that group. I was able to get signed with a group due to that affiliation through the same producer that he was working with. The group that I was with kind of dispersed. Two of the cats went to jail, and the other cat moved down south. So that whole situation went left. The producer, Tracy Cobb, at the time, was looking for another artist. So he asked me, did I know anybody? So while we were recording, once again, in between that 80, 88 to like 90, me and Reg are grooming an MC by the name of Courageous Chief. Because now we got plans with us being on the radio. We got into production. So now we're creating a situation where we're trying to create a Molly Mall type of scenario where we're going to make these records. We have the means to play a record on the radio instantly. So that's what we were working on. The Rough House situation was nervous. We didn't have control of it because we weren't the producers or anything of that nature. We had a lot of ideas, but they weren't using none of our ideas. But we just knew if we can get these situations to get us as far as we need them to go, when our time comes, we'll already have the artists and the people we want to deal with already set up, ready to go.
Right.
So that's Chief comes into play, Courageous Chief. Bring him into the fold. We cut a demo with Rough House Records. Back then, that's when you can get a demo deal where they would pay for the studio time. You cut about 5 or 6 songs, then they'll determine whether they want to actually sign you. They decided at the time they didn't want to sign us. So let me explain why. It wasn't because we wasn't good. This is during the same era. If you check the timeline, Tim Dog, Cypress Hill, Fugees, Crisscross.
All of them was on that label.
All of them were on that label, and everybody won. So that put every other potential group that Rough House was going to sign on freeze. All the funds went to them. So we were demo signed, couldn't advance it because there was no money released to sign any new groups. So it was like Courageous Chief, this artist named Chiba, Yvette Money, shout out to Yvette Money from out in Philly. She was a part of that. The only difference was the two of them were able to get a 12-inch out. We weren't able to get anything put out. But all the funds got stopped. The owner of the label, Chris Swartz, did us a solid, which at the time, we probably didn't see it that way, but it was a blessing and a great opportunity because he didn't have to do it. He allowed us to shop the demo that we recorded with Rough House. We were able to shop that. And if another label was willing to sign, all that was asked is that that label had to pick up the cost of the recording of those demos so that Rough House could get those, recoup that money that they put out on us as artists.
Right.
So we went out and shopped. Had a couple of deals on the table, didn't quite work out. Things weren't panning out right. Me and Chief are kind of going back and forth because we're not seeing eye to eye with some of the, business decisions and how we saw things, how we thought things should go. I say, we get an opportunity. I don't know how Rudy comes into play. This is where Tirade Records comes into play. A small independent label out of this area, right out of Willenboro. I say, maybe we shouldn't go with a major. Maybe if we go the independent route, it might work better for us because what we were lacking at the time was attention.
Right.
We get signed as an independent. They're forced to pay attention to us because we're their bread and butter. If we're not successful, that label's not successful. But when we're signed to a major, it's not looked upon the same way. If we are not successful, we're forgotten. Or in our case, we never even got the opportunity because
Right.
the other groups were so damn successful, there was no room for nobody else. You know what I'm saying? So we decided to go that route, and we signed with an independent label. We did put out a year later, which was in 91, we did put out an EP called Warpath on that label. Made a little bit of noise. We being we had the relationship with Poor Righteous Teachers, we opened up a handful of shows with them. So
Right.
we were on the road with them, opening up for them. We also did a handful of shows with early Naughty by Nature. OPP was starting to blow up when we were doing shows with them. Like we literally saw the growth of that record, where it was like they did the song and people were like, wow, you know, you could tell the crowd was like, wow, that song was kind of dope. And
Yeah.
it was like, yo, the crowd's about to rush the stage. Like, this is insane. Like, it was just like we saw that whole, and by the time they got to that point, they were on a whole nother level. So we got left behind. They didn't need us because they were doing bigger and better things.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, it just went beyond what we were doing with them in the very beginning. And then we had an opportunity. Shout out to Cool V, Bismarcky, RIP Bismarck. Cool V took an interest with us, wanted to sign us, get us signed to Coach Chillin. We had a deal on the table with Coach Chillin. Everybody remembers that album when Biz went to get a haircut. Y'all remember that? Yeah, remember that? Biz gets sued. We get contracts. We sign them. I don't think we were 2 or 3 months into that contract. All his affairs are frozen due to that album and what was happening with him getting sued. So now the contract is it's non-existent because of that album. Wow. And what happened. You know, the album got pulled off the shelf. It was a big deal when that happened. Like, that had never happened before. But Biz turned out to be the example of the whole, you know, sampling records without getting permission and things of that nature. So when that trickled down and messed him up, that trickled down and messed us up. So that was a brief breakdown of like the recording situation. But we, you know, me and Reg had dealt with recording and being in the studio and doing that side of making records and things like that. And me personally, after that happened, I got burnt out.
You was done, huh?
I didn't like, well, it wasn't that we weren't talented or anything of that nature. It was I didn't like the lack of having any leverage or power.
Right.
Anything that was going to happen was decided by somebody else. And that was just bad. Because even the people we were around, some people were good, some people weren't. But it was just like, yo, if you don't have any control, like what's the purpose? So my thing was, I was on this thing of wanting control. So I said, I'm going back to DJing. Period. Because I can control that. I could go out and do a party, make $500, and that's what that was. You know what I'm saying? Instead of all this promise of what could happen, and then it doesn't. But not at the hands of me, because I did everything I was supposed to do. It's at the hands or the decisions of other people that I may not even have a conversation with, that decided this ain't going to happen. This ain't going to go. Don't cut a check. Don't do this. Don't give out a contract. So I just was like, So I got out of the independent contract with Tirade and said, I'm done. Release me. I'm pursuing the DJing and getting back on the radio. That was my number one priority. So by this time, it's like 90, 93. So the PRB thing ends. So that comes to an end. So now we're at 93. So we got 94, 95, 96, creeping into mid 97. So I spent 4 years trying to figure out how I'm gonna get back on the radio.
Mm.
But now I want to get back on. I want to get on major radio. I don't want to get on what I was on. I don't want to do the high school radio because I'm not a high
Right.
school member.
You
I don't
ain't.
want to do the PRB thing anymore because I want to be on major radio in a major market. So I spent 4 years trying to figure that out as I'm still DJing, doing parties, still working at the record store and things of that nature. So I'm still in the loop of doing that. You know, I build relationships with cats. So I'm got a good relationship with Cool V, even though that whole scenario doesn't work out, but it brought a great friendship. So I'm still interacting with him, trying to figure out things and asking him questions and can you lead me into this or whatever. Even during that time, I actually meet Chili Q, for those that really know radio. BLS, he was with Mr. Magic, was the son of Marley Marl. He was dating a girl here in Willenboro. Meet up with him. He was down here just calling himself Quincy at the time. So a lot of cats didn't even know who he was. But I was able to hang out with him. He was, you know, schooling me on some things, giving me a little insight that I didn't have prior, you know, to meeting him. And I was just trying to figure it out. So, you know, like I said, was still doing parties, street DJ, working at the record store, but wanting to get back on radio. And said, when I get my opportunity to get back on radio, it's going down because I'm going to take full advantage and I'm going to control my situation because I was just over other people, you know, being able to move the stick. It was just, that was just bad, you know, just bad.
So DJKam, did you ever think in that 4 years that this radio thing may not happen because it was seeming like it was taking too long?
Nah, not 4 years. It seemed like, you know, to the average person, you say 4 years, it might seem like forever. 4 years in my mind was nothing. You know, you got to start of how long I had kind of already been doing the DJing thing and kind of how the path and how things were moving from the time that I started up until that moment. I always felt like if I kept myself in the arena and around that work, something was going to take place. You know, once again, back then you didn't have all that, the phrases, you know, building your brand and all that. But I knew being affiliated and being around what I wanted to do, that's the only way this is going to come about. And that's what I did. I kept myself in the mix of everything, you know, but I never to think that after 4 years it wouldn't happen. I'm not going to sit and say that I thought that because I was like, why not? I did all this other stuff that took place. And it was just a matter of a guy walking in the record store I worked in, and that put me on the radio for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, I said, this is all about opportunity and just being at the right place at the right time, or speaking to the right person at the right time, or letting them know what I do, or them hearing what I do, or seeing what I do, can bring about something. So I was never thought it couldn't happen. I just got to keep doing what I'm doing so that when that opportunity comes, I'll be ready to move on it. So that's all I was doing. I was just kind of, it sounds weird, but I was waiting my time. And I was
that shows the mentality, that the drive you had back then, knowing you know this was going to happen. Not a if, not you know, I might have to think about getting a job. You knew this was going to happen and did everything you could to make it happen.
Yeah,
and eventually it did.
Yes, and during that whole run, keep in mind, what I was doing was not fan favorite. It wasn't like everybody was giving me hugs and kisses saying, oh, you want to be a DJ and da-da-da-da. Like everybody wasn't on board with all this. You know, I was hearing a lot of bad chatter from within my inner circle, not even my outer circle, my inner circle. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wasn't cool with it. I was losing mad girlfriends over the DJing stuff. Keeping it 100. You know, like to keep it one, my dad wasn't a fan of it. The only true support I really got was my mom. That was consistent was my mom and my sister. They were locked in. Never looked at it as it was something that couldn't happen, things of that nature. But I was getting a lot of chatter from family members. Oh, Cam needs to just go ahead and get into something else. I don't think that's going to happen for him, and blah blah blah. You know, this is the chatter that would come to my mom or filter through my sister, and they
Right.
would come back and give it to me. I'm like, well, that's cool. That's, you know, that's their thought, and I didn't tell them what I thought about what they should do. You know, so I'm not worried about what they think that I should do. I'm gonna be all right. Don't worry about me. You know, and when we look back on it, I mean, come on, what we doing? You spent 40 years doing what? Oh, my bad. Because I've been DJing for 40 years. So,
Yeah.
you know, I was good. You know, I didn't listen to you. Thank me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't distracted. There was, you know, people were saying what they were saying, but I was so locked in. I was cool with it. You know, it didn't keep me from talking to people and dealing with them. But I was like, you know, when it happens, don't beat me over the head with, oh, we're so proud of you. Come on, cut it out. Cut it out. Don't do that.
You wasn't about 6 months ago.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So I just, you know, pushed on and just, you know, just kept the skills sharp. You know what I'm saying? So and just was on ready mode. You know, it's like, what happens? Just be, when it happens, just boom. We're gonna go. And then, you know, I had a little bit of past and history of what I didn't like. So it encouraged me to go harder. I said, I get another opportunity. I got to go harder. Got to be a little more aggressive. Got to take more control and settle in on what it is. You know what I'm saying? And don't be all, you know, yeah, I'm kind of good. No, I'm hot. You hired me. It was your best bet to hire me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what you said before, every time you stand up, it's a stage.
Yeah, every time I stand up is a stage. Every time. Matter of fact, I'm sitting on the stage right now. I'm just on the corner of the stage having this conversation with you.
So let's take us through the rest of the 90s, and then we're going to wrap this up until next week, where we'll take where you really flourished to another whole level. Because there were times, you know, just to give people a little peek, there were times you had how many people listening to you between all the stations you were on?
I need Super for this one. Super's
for me. We need a call in. We need a call in.
There were times when I was on the radio where the audience number, if you just tallied every platform that I was on, there was a time I was on 3 major platforms, which, you know, I will just go ahead and say what they were. There was Music Choice, XM Satellite Radio, the early years, and I was on Philly Radio, which was at that time the number 5 market in the country. So between the 3 of them, I was probably a listening audience based on those 3 platforms was probably a little over 4 million listeners. Because it was easily I knew for a fact it was 1 million on Music Choice. They would tell us that almost every conference call that we had. They were quick to brag about that. Same thing with XM Satellite Radio, because we were based on how many subscribers we had.
Right.
So they were always talking about how the numbers were growing when we reached 1 million subscribers. You know what I'm saying? So we knew that number. Being in Philly, number 5 market, we were somewhere, the audience was almost close to 2 million at that time. I know since it's going down, like maybe 1.5, going down to 1.5, well, whatever. But, you know, it's like closer to 2 million, you know. So when you round those numbers together,
that is crazy. That's the teaser for next week. Let's finish out the 90s and your beginning of the early 2000s. Then we'll wrap this up and come back next week and talk about the rest of it. You know, I'm sitting here learning a lot.
That's cool. I'm sitting here making sure I'm not forgetting anything.
You reminiscing.
Yeah, I got to remember my damn self. I'm not sitting here with no notes. Well, really, to sum up the 90s. So like I said before, the run on PRB ended 93. So we had 94. I always joke and say I got off. The time I stopped radio is when Biggie came out. So I never got the opportunity to play Biggie like brand new right out the box, you know, on radio.
Right.
So yeah, the 94, 95, 96, 97. Middle of 97, that's when things started to to shake up. But everything that was going on during those 4 years, I was just doing parties, events, still at the record store, putting in my time there, helping people, build their situations in terms of selling them music and things of that nature, building a lot of good friendships, relationships, industry relationships, and things of that nature as well. Matter of fact, shout outs to Miss Barber. Can't think of her last name right now. Reg, what's her last name? Miss Barber. She's worked for WIA, which was Warner Brother Electra Atlantic. And she worked for the major labels in New York, but she lived right here in Philadelphia, right here in Willingboro, New Jersey.
Right.
And she would always come by the store. Well, our store was one of her accounts, but she took a real liking to me and Reg and would do a lot of little extra things for the store based on the fact that we were in there working. And she always looked out for us. So I just want to shout her out. I can't think of her last name. Is it Williams? Might be Williams. But I was just during that time leading up to where we want to go, part 2, was just putting in that work, waiting for that opportunity. In 97, mid 97, that's when the opportunity, the door cracked. I saw a little bit of light. It was like, who, what they want, what, who and the what? Why, when? Huh? All right. You sure? Yeah. Y'all need this. Let's go. And I just, then things started to move in a whole nother way. And then, like you said, everything got bigger, better, got a little more cocky. I had to get the cocky bag back up. That's always there, but I had to restructure it. It got a little damaged. You know what I'm saying? Took a couple of L's. I was feeling some type of way. I had to build it back up. I was like, yo, man.
You became humble for a minute.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, last 2 bouts. I ain't want to fight in like a year. You know what I'm saying?
So your heavy hitter days came
2000 to be exact.
In the 2000s. Okay, so we'll leave that
2000 period. Yeah,
we'll leave that for next week. But
and shout out to everybody who's listening. I didn't see all the names because some of the stuff was popping up, but I didn't see names. So
yeah,
I can't see. I see Frank, Reg. I'm just going through the joint real quick. Who I see here? Who else? Latrice, Carla, Wes. Wow, y'all making a lot of comments.
Big up to everybody.
Tommy Lee. Yeah, but shout out to
Nice.
Oh, I didn't see him. But yeah, Paul, yeah.
Sharice Harris.
Chris liked the shirt. Thank you, sir.
Chris Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a slew of people. There's a lot of comments in here.
But
Courtney,
okay, this one.
Yes, she jumped on full.
This PEC Williams. Shout out to you. But yeah, appreciate everybody, tuning in, giving it an ear. My sister, she's listening on some platform somewhere.
Yeah.
You. Monique.
But man, bro. And coming from this point where we're gonna stop, this is where your world really changed. Like starting with the 2000s, and we'll start that next week. And everybody who was here, please come back and hear the rest of it. Is because it's probably stuff you can reminisce about or didn't know.
Right.
So
yeah, that's what the rise.
Thank you guys. We're gonna close this out. DJKam. Yeah. All right. So this has been the DJ interview with your host, Harry the Big Dog. And we had my man, Heavy Hitter DJKam. This was part 1 of a part 2.
It's like interview. My bio.
Yeah. Your bio is like 35 pages.
And I know I'm as soon as all this ends, my sister, me and her, probably gonna talk. If not tonight, probably tomorrow morning. She gonna name like 3 things I forgot. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
of course. But there's no way you could fit all them years in into we've been on
Mhm.
for about, the time says about an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
There's no way you're gonna remember everything and every situation. But thank you guys. We will see you next week on the
Yep.
DJ interview for part 2 of the legendary heavy
Mhm.
hitter DJ Cam.
Mhm.
Let's take him out of here.
Peace.